Reviewing constitutional law. Suits alleging constitutional violation must have a government actor. Strict scrutiny is necessary and compelling standard. This is applied where the government action targeted religious practice, among other things. Rational basis review. Rationally related, legitimate government interest. Now, it need only be rationally related. It need not be, in fact, correct. Looking at aliens, generally strict scrutiny is applied to regulation of aliens, but apply a rational basis test where aliens are restricted from participating in functions that are central to self-government, such as voting, running for office, or jury duty. Looking at equal protection, where there's deprivation of a fundamental right, such as marriage, or privacy, strict scrutiny is applied. Remedy for violations of fundamental rights, Congress cannot interfere with judicial remedy. So Congress cannot constrict judicial remedy for deprivation of fundamental right under equal protection. Equal protection and protected classes, they're protected via a due process clause. And this applies strict scrutiny to protected classes, and again, that is necessary and compelling. Okay, an establishment of religion, the Lemon test, looking at government entanglement in its entirety. One example is there was city-owned property that the city leased. The city reviewed the leases, and the city got part of lease profits. So a contractor leased the land, then built condominiums, then leased those. So that was considered establishment of religion and significant government entanglement. Looking at powers of Congress. Powers of Congress over contracts. This is through the 13th Amendment, which is slavery. Congress can regulate those contracts deemed a badge or incident of slavery. Powers of Congress and the Contracts Clause. Congress cannot retroactively modify contracts. This is not related to regulation of private contracts. It's government contracts. Powers of Congress. The 14th Amendment, Section 5, allows Congress to pass legislation to enforce protections of the 14th Amendment. Powers of Congress. Generally, Congress cannot pass a law overruling a constitutional decision of the United States Supreme Court. So the United States Supreme Court decision, based on constitutional grounds, cannot pass a law overruling that. However, they may, if the statute is based on the commerce power of Congress, because Congress has absolute power over commerce. Powers of Congress. Congress may not limit presidential appointment powers of principal officers or the Senate's consent authority. Powers of Congress. Congress may change federal statute and direct federal courts to apply those changes in all actions in which a final judgment has not been rendered. Powers of Congress. The President alone may represent the United States in foreign affairs. Congress has no authority to represent the U.S. in foreign affairs. And ex post facto laws. This is a law that an ex post facto law does not apply to civil punishment. Okay, so it's criminal punishment. Punishing an act after it's happened. Bill of Attainder. This is a legislative act that singles out a party for punishment without trial. It's a Bill of Attainder, punishment without trial through legislation. An example was defunding a university professor specifically in a bill, or barring specific individuals from government employment. United States Supreme Court review. The review of a state court decision. They have no jurisdiction to review a state court decision if there is adequate and independent state law grounds for the decision. An example is where the federal and state law was pled. Decision is based on either only state law or both state and federal law. Each are independently adequate grounds. So there, the Supreme Court, United States Supreme Court, would have no jurisdiction, because even though one of those situations, the judgment was found proper on state and federal law, there is independent federal or independent state grounds in that decision. Therefore, there's no Supreme Court jurisdiction. Commerce Clause, Congress, it's very broad. Congress may permit states to discriminate against interstate commerce. Commerce Clause, statute ordering cities and or states to comply is okay if the statute does not commandeer the city to regulate conduct of others. Commerce Clause may apply to rental agreements. Looking at free speech, commercial speech. A law must be narrowly tailored to serve a substantial government interest. An example would be solicitation of accident victims for a period after the accident. Now, misleading commercial speech is not protected at all. Free speech and prior restraint. Prior restraint is requiring permission of a government official before speech occurs. Free speech and content-neutral restriction. Content-neutral restrictions receive intermediate scrutiny, and they are okay if they are narrowly tailored to further an important government interest, and they leave open alternative channels of communication. Then at due process, you have a right to notice and hearing. This does not apply to legislative acts, and that completes constitutional law, OPE review.